All right, greetings, everyone. Greetings, brothers and guests, to another episode of the Masterful Conversations podcast, where we talk about leadership with the men who have served or are currently serving as Worshipful Master of a regular lodge of Free and Accepted Masons. I am Brother Matthew Wagstaff, a proud past master of Eureka Lodge number 36 in Rochester, New York. We're currently serving as our Worshipful Master is Brother Jermaine Myers. And I'm with
It's Master Mark Alexander of Sons of Kings Lodge number 123 out of Brooklyn, New York, where Brother Fitzgerald Boyce II has the pleasure of serving as the worship master.
All right. We both hail from the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the state of New York. We're currently serving as our Worshipful Master is Most Worshipful Gregory Roberson Smith Jr. And before we get into our introductions of our esteemed
Did you say
guests, we have
worship master or grand master? You think you said worship
I said
master.
Worshipful Master. Oh, see, you
Yeah,
got me here. Good
exactly.
thing. My brother, he always got my back. Well, serving right now is Most Worshipful Gregory
Grand
Roberson
master. There
Smith
you
as
go.
our Grand Master.
There you go.
So, Most Worshipful, if you're listening right now, my apologies. Blame my head, not my heart. But Brother Mark
Suspend
always
him.
had my
Nah.
back. Yes, yes. But before we get into the
No.
introductions of our esteemed guests tonight, we have a quick disclaimer.
The views and opinions are our own and are meant for the information on the show is meant for entertainment and educational purpose only. The views and opinion are our own and do not reflect our prospective lodges or grand lodges. If you have any questions about any particular things, please see your particular jurisdiction for those answers.
Absolutely. So tonight we have Past Master Tommy Wheeler with us today. Uh, Past Master Wheeler is a Past Master of Tappan Zee Lodge number 79 in Spring Valley, New York, in the 3rd District of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the state of New York. He served as Worshipful Master in the year of 2012. He is also a honorary past potentate of Elejmal Temple number 185, and he has received the 33rd and last degree of the Ancient Scottish Rite Masons. So, with that being said, greetings, Past Master Wheeler. We know you like to be called Tommy, but greetings, Past Master Wheeler, to the Masterful Conversations podcast.
Thank you, and good evening, and to you, Past Master Wagstaff and Past Master Alexander. Thank you very, very much for inviting me to your podcast. I am Past Master Tommy Wheeler from Tappan Zee Lodge No. 79, currently under the leadership of Brother Jason Kurat, my worshipful master, and we hail from the 3rd Masonic District. The Thunder and
Absolutely.
Third, I might say.
Thunder and third.
Thunder and
All
Third
right.
Masonic District.
So, Past Master Wheeler, definitely a pleasure to have you on the show. Definitely appreciate you taking the time to be with us and talk about leadership. The first question we like to ask, just to get a sense of your background a little bit. We know you were a worshipful master in 2012, so 12 years ago, serving as master. Can you talk to us a little bit about your time in the East, a little bit about your lodge, the size of your lodge, and also some of the things that may have been going on in your lodge during your time in the East?
Okay. So in all transparency, I almost did not become the worship master. And I tell you what happened. I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure during the summer. And I didn't tell any of my lodge brothers. I didn't tell any of them. So it was around October during our meeting. I pulled a couple of my senior past masters who were my mentors together after the meeting, and I told them that I could not proceed to go to be the worship master. And they said, why? And I told them about my diagnosis. They put their arms around me and they said, we got you. You've served as every station before you with honors. And we're not going to let this diagnosis keep you from being a master. So I went ahead with it. I had already committed to myself that I wasn't going to do it. But the way that they came around and supported me, I felt that if I didn't do it, I would have let them down, especially my sponsor. So in 2012, I became the worship master. During that time, the Grand Master was Dorian Glover, who I had a pretty good relationship with because of my work in the Grand Lodge during the sessions. And it was the best year of my Masonic career to date. Um, During that time, we had about 85 brothers, and it was a mixture of some older statesmen and some younger statesmen. And I being uh, a non-Rockland resident, I lived in Westchester, and they were all from Rockland, so they had like a little inner circle. But they welcomed me in with open arms, and the older ones adopted me like a son, and the younger ones adopted me like a brother twice over. Um, the young man who actually got my petition, Past Master Hill, since passed away, but he told me many, many years later that he watched me for 2.5 years before he even thought about getting me the petition. And then he said I was the only person he ever got a petition for in the lodge. And that meant a lot to me because my father was a Mason, and where we hail from North Carolina, all my uncles and grandparents were involved in the order, Eastern Star, as well as Prince Hall Masonry. So my year as worship master, when I tell you I had a ball, I had a ball. The energy that I wanted to bring back to the lodge was one of my focuses. I wanted us to, have fun, not be so tight, so tight with the apron and everything. I wanted us to have fun. And, we come to the meetings and we open up, and there was a lot of laughter in the room because that's the kind of meetings that we had. It was joyful. It was, we just had a good time. Um, I'm happy to say that during my tenure, I didn't lose a single member to death. They're walking away from the lodge. In fact, we didn't bring any new members in, but we re-energized the base. And I'm always talking about the base. So we re-energized the base, and it made us even more a solid lodge. Even with our dealings with the community and the Eastern Star, our sister chapter, Potentate chapter, it made us unified again. So it was the best year of my Masonic career. I mean, I have a lot of accolades, a lot of titles that come after my name now, but that worshipful master, and it was Andre Baker, past Grand Master Andre Baker, who said to me, he was sitting with me the night that I got installed, and he leaned over to me and he said to me, "This is the best night of your Masonic career." And he said, "The next best night is when we have our annual dance and introduce you as the worship master." And he did not mislead me. And I tell you, I mean, I'm in a lot of houses, but the blue house, there's something about the blue house, that bottom, that base, that if you're really serious about it, it's something about that blue house. You make connections there that last a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean the Blue House is you could basically stay in the Blue House your entire Masonic life without
Yes,
having to go
definitely can.
anywhere.
yes.
But certainly, yeah, I can definitely hear you there. I'm curious about your journey to the East now that we talked about in the East. But before we even get to your journey in the East, when we get back to the leadership aspect of it, so making it was your best year as a Mason, having all the fun that you guys had. Um, how did your leadership style either help or advance that the work that you were doing that year to make it like your best year? Like how were you leading yourself and the lodge that year?
So I used a 4-prong approach. I came with a vision. I came letting them know that I was going to delegate a lot of responsibilities to them. I also started a mentorship program, and we collaborated on everything, right? So when I came, you have the trusted board meeting, and I laid it all out. I said, here's the trusted board for this year. Here's my vision from where I'm sitting here now. Because when you're the senior ward and the junior ward, your outlook on everything is different. But when you're standing there in the East, it's different, and you need to have a vision. So as I came up, junior ward and senior deacon, I watched those before me, and I said, what would I do different? So when I got there, I had visions, I had plans that I wanted to see implemented. And some of them we started when I was a warden, because I figured if I could start the vision now, plant the seed now, by the time I get there, the tree will be blooming, right? And I'm all then, so it's on autopilot, right? It's so automated. We're just doing it without thinking about it. Delegation is important to me, right? I'm not a micromanager, and I never was. So I told my wardens and my deacons and the chairmans during the treasury board meeting, this is your job, the breakfast, your job to check on the widows. This is your, and come let me know if you have a problem completing your task. But I gave them complete power to make decisions and everything. And they came back and they reported back, hey, Worship Master, I have an issue with this vendor or this brother or about, and then we solved it then. As I said earlier, Past Master Hill, who got me my petition, was like a stepdad to me. And he reminded me a lot of my father, who I lost when I was 17, but he was just like, he just took me under his wing, right? And he just dragged me along with him everywhere he went, you know. So I got to know the older brothers before I got to meet the newer brothers when I started, got my first degree and all that. So I understood the importance of leaning on the seniors to give the youth advice. So I paired up an older seasoned past master with a new deacon or warden. And I said, he's in your charge. Walk with him, teach him, don't discourage him, lift him up. So they gleamed off each other. So the young taught the old some new tricks. And the young, you see what I'm saying? It was reciprocal.
Vice versa. Mm-hmm.
Right. They helped each other become stronger Masons because they connected. And I didn't put a son and a father together or a nephew and an uncle together. I put two people who normally would just see each other at the lodge meeting. I put them together. It's a purpose for that, right? Because when you know a man, you know of a man, it's different than just knowing the man. Hey, how you doing? So they became connected. And so then the rope got tighter. It got twisted a little tighter because there was a lot more connections. And then we collaborate on a lot of things. I bring ideas and we sit down and we hash it out. We talk about it. We figure out, what was the best way to do that? Because as a master, I always felt that the best way for your lodge to grow is have open communication and participation. That's the only way it's going to work. In any relationship, you have to have some kind of communication. Now, it could be bad communication, it could be good, but you need to have some type of communication. So we collabed on a lot of things. I brought some of my business intellect and increments into the lodge, and I sort of mixed it all up like a mad scientist, and I tried to make it work best for Tappan Zee Lodge. Because it's not the formula for every lodge, but it worked at Tappan Zee.
Yeah. I'm curious about like the activity of your lodge prior to you being master, because some lodges may have 85 on the rolls, but there's only like maybe 15 to 20 brothers that are active. It sounds like you have some pretty active brothers that say, yes, I will take what you told me. Because sometimes the brothers you'll delegate and they'll accept it, but not necessarily do the role. And sometimes they do the role. And then also to have that mentorship relationship and actually have them meet or have conversations with each other. So it sounds like the brothers in your lodge and Tappan Zee are pretty engaged or were pretty engaged at that time.
And to this day we still are. So I'll tell you. So we had adopted a school in New City, right? So we adopted a school in New City, and every year we would go read to the children. They had a reading day, and every year about 20 so of us will go over to the school, dressed in our black suits, our white shirts, our black neckties, and we would read to the students, and we would talk. They would want to know, hey, and we would read to them, and it got to be so popular that my temple, Elejmal Temple, which was a cosmet of some of the brothers from Tappan Zee Lodge, pulled them in. So then we would go there with our fezzes and our collars, and it just became a beautiful thing. We also had a food program that not only fed the homeless and the disabled people during Thanksgiving, but all year long. Past Master Willie Joe Thompson had started this in Spring Valley, and it was like something that we did every year. We had clothing drives. We also have in my lodge Past Master Reggie Anderson and Past Master Darryl Hanbury. So Past Master Anderson is in law enforcement, retired detective from Spring Valley Police. We did a program called Keeping It Real, which was an offshoot of, remember that show on TV where they showed the kids going to
like Scared Straight type of thing?
Scared Straight, right? But
Yeah.
it was the Tappan Zee version of Scared Straight. Scared Straight. So what we did was we went to the Nanuet, we went to the mall, the big mall, the Palisades Mall, took over a courtyard, and we did, you know, what to do when you're stopped by the police, how to interact with the police, what to do, what not to do. And it was a big success. And those programs are still intact today.
Nice. Nice. That's pretty dope. I'm glad that those programs definitely continue because they sound like they were good for the lodge and good for the community. So that's a great thing. As we know, this program is about leadership. So our premier question that we ask all our guests is, in your own definition, what is effective leadership?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Effective leadership is when you can recognize the challenges that you're going to face when you're trying to push the cart up the hill. Resistance to change. You got to know how to meet those members sort of halfway, because you get a lot of people that are going to say, hey, we always did it this way. We never did it that. We always did it this way. Never did it that way. Why we change it? So an effective leader needs to be able to meet them where they are. I give you an example. One day, I think it had to be June or May. It was very hot, and we were sitting in the room. Everybody just sweating, just sweat pouring down everywhere. Everybody sitting there with the suit on, the apron on, their gloves on, and I'm looking out there, and they just sweating, they guzzling water. I said, take off your jackets. Worship Master, we don't do that. I said, take off your jacket. They said, come on, Worship Master, we don't do that. I had to order them to take off their jackets, right? I'm saying, I want to help you, right? Resistance to change. So I had to meet them halfway. I said, okay, take off your jacket and put your apron on, but put your jacket on the back of the chair because the AC is broken and we don't need to pass out in here. A good leader knows how to meet the membership where they are. And understand, you asked a question earlier about, you said a statement earlier about delegating. I understand that when I give somebody a task, there may be a priority in their life that may conflict with them completing that task. So I got to understand that, and I got to be able to tell that brother, it's okay, I'm going to help you. Because above all, family should be your first priority. So I had to understand that they have conflicting priorities. Then another thing, as an effective leader, you got to know about people's resources, right? Everybody don't come from the same resource line, right? So again, you gotta understand something. If we asking the brothers to support something and we're putting a financial tag on it, some of them may not be able to do that. So you got to understand the resources, and you got to be able to either pivot so that everybody can participate and not feel that they can't. And that's another thing. The last thing that I had to realize was time constraints, right? You know, that 20H gauge, right? Yeah, I had a problem with that because when I first became a Mason, man, I was all pinned up. I was going everywhere, and you have to understand that you can't be everywhere all the time, and neither can anybody else. So a good leader, a good effective leader, when he's standing there painting a picture, right? He's saying, what about this? Priorities, resources, time, and he's applying those variables to the vision that he's presenting. And I think that once the leader does that, everybody buys in. And you're not going to get 100%. I'm not crazy. But if you get 85%, I always say to my Potentate, my worship master, and to my CIC, I said, listen, If you can get 85% of the people to buy in, that's wonderful. If I'll take 60, but if you give me 85%, that's wonderful. So I think that when leaders make it more adaptable for the majority of the membership, then everybody gets on board and they all want to participate.
Yeah.
And another thing, I'm sorry. When you are, I learned this the hard way my first month. When you're trying to implement something, especially when it comes to more seasoned past masters and more seasoned brothers, gradual is the key, right? You're not gonna, I can't come in there with all my ideas in my backpack, take them out and just unload them on the table and expect everybody to, no, it has to be gradual, right? And when something is gradual, guess what? They don't even know that they actually are going this way. They wake up one day, how'd that happen? Well,
Yeah.
it was
like
it was gradual, right? It was. So I tell you a story. So we have a new deputy for the Orient, Harmon Simpson. So he comes to me. He says, "Oh, we're going to have the COD and blah 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 blah." He says, "You and Richard Gilead, past Grandmaster Richard Gilead, another one of my mentors, you've been doing this, with him, and we want to do this a little more effectively." So I said, "Okay, so let's just do this online." He just looked at me. What? Let's do this online. So I designed a system, do it online. So I warned him. I said, "Okay, so I'm going to tell you this right now. You're not going to get 100% buy-in. You may get," and I lowballed. I said, "You may get 75, 80%. I'll take that as a win." He says, "Okay, let's just go ahead and do it." We had 99% participation. And when I came back and I gave him the report, he just looked at me. He said, "What you said?" I said, "I know, but apparently people must like me because they just, did what we asked them to do." So implementation is another thing, gradually. And then when you have a success, you make everybody know. You let the whole membership know, hey, the school that we went and read to, they loved us so much they sent us letters back, and here are the letters. We read the letters out loud. The kids had a good time. We had pictures. You highlight the success, because if you don't tell people about your successes, right, they'll always be wondering, well, what happened with that program? And like I said earlier, you got to always keep in mind traditions. Because traditions are important to a lot of people for a lot of reasons. And so you always got to keep that in the back of your head, that somebody's going to say, hey, I understand what you're doing, but I got a problem with that. When I became the Worshipful Master, we revamped the communication. We made it more like a newsletter, right? And so I thought I was doing a good thing. January newsletter came out, looked really polished. You had 2 pieces of paper, everything looked good. Past master put me to the side. It was past master Epps. I'll never forget this. He said, "Hey, Wheeler." They just call me, "Hey, Wheeler." I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "I like what you're doing as the worship master, and I like the communication." He said, "But I like to feel a raised seal on mine when I get it in the mail." I don't, Mark, you laughing, Mark. He said, "I see it on the paper, but I can't feel it.
Feel it.
Feel the
Yeah.
raised seal." So you know what that told me? I had open communication. I told them what I wanted to do. I gradually introduced them to a new way of looking at the same piece of paper with more information, right? It was a success, but that tradition of him opening that envelope and feeling that seal, that was important to him. Do you know what I did?
Seal that paper.
Out, that's what I did.
Sealed it. Yeah.
You know what?
It is official. Like, that is official.
He said, "Thank you." He said, "Thank you."
And I mean, how much can it hurt? Ain't no hurt. You put a seal on it. You know what I mean? Give him what he wants.
You got like 85 brothers and you doing them seals for, man. It could take a nice little bit of time.
I mean, everybody don't need it.
That's the key, Mark. That's the key, Mark. Mark, that's the key. That's the key. And you know what?
You give the people what they need.
Yeah, he called me at collations one day after the meeting. He put me to the side, he grabbed my arm, And all he said, looked at me dead. He said, thank you. And I knew what he was thanking me for. And I hugged him. I said, no
Yeah.
problem. I said, no problem. And that's what leaders, that's what as we're supposed to do. And I know that each of you have similar stories from when you were master. But that's what leaders are, that's what we're called to do, right? Remember, they put their trust in us, right? Not to harm them, not to hurt them, not to do anything that's going to embarrass them, but to assist them going to another level, right? Another way of thinking. And the most important thing is in keeping them involved, right? Because we lose so many brothers by thinking that we don't need them, right? But the involvement, keeping them involved, making them interested, that's what keeps them coming back to your meetings every month.
Yep, definitely. That's definitely what does that.
Yeah.
I know to your saying of the changing is gradual. The saying, the way I look at it is, every lodge is a cruise ship. It's not a speedboat. So it's going to take us a lot. It's so real. It turns real slow, so much you won't even feel it before you know you're going in another direction.
Yes.
So that's what it is. You got to admit, we're a cruise ship, being a speedboat.
Yes.
Speedboat, you can just do like that.
Right. No, you're
But
100% right. And that is the approach that I took when I was worship master. And the thing about it is that, the tools that I learned, the skills that I learned when I was the worship master, I apply them now in the craft and outside the craft, right? So I apply them on my job. I apply them in the consistory. I apply them in the temple. And those same skills, right? Gradually doing things, the open dialogue, effective communication, sharing goals, success stories. Those are the things that keep the brothers involved and engaged.
engage.
I feel like this. Once you lose the engagement, for whatever reason, you lost the brother. And another thing, accountability and expectations work hand in hand. So as I said earlier, about the delegations, right? So when I assigned a task to someone, I gave them what I expected them to come back with, right? And I always left the door open, so if they had a problem, they'd come back. So you assign the expectations with that, right? And then you say, okay, what happened? There's no reason for you not to succeed because they understand what the task is.
Yeah. Just to hop in for a second, Past Master Wheeler, you seem to be very intentional about the work you do, which is fantastic. One of the things that I've been echoing throughout the shows here is I've been working on my patience for a very long time, and I'm still working on my patience. And so I'm super curious now that you being Worshipful Master for 1 year. I know you talked about how you sort of was setting the stage as a warden for some of the stuff you wanted to do, but I'm like, how in the world did you have the patience for gradual growth and movement and doing all these things and the intentionality? Because it takes time to like think about all this stuff, and then you got to execute it, and then you got to rewind it when you need to pull it back. And so, like, how much time were you spending as in the work, like as Worshipful Master? Like, how much time were you spending in masonry, and how did you manage sort of like the patient aspect of that? Like, what were you think? What were some of your internal conversations around the patience, but also I got 12 months to get this done if I'm gonna do this in 1 year.
So I'm like you. I don't have any patience, right? And anybody that
I'm
knows
working on it. I got more than I have, so I got.
anybody that knows me like closely will tell you that I often ask this question: how did they get that job? And I'm like, I'll do it. I'll do it myself. And so what you just said is paramount, right? So I was blessed. And we talk about mentors, right? I was blessed. So in my lodge, I had Past Master Hill, who got my petition. I had Past Master Ronald Smalls. We call him Biggie. Past Master Ronald Smalls. Past Master Reggie Anderson. Past Master Darrell Hanberry. Past Master Jerry Sylvester. Right. So I had a core, like a little cohort group, right? So they watched me and I watched them as it was coming up. So I knew basically what I wanted to do when I was a senior deacon. So when I became the junior warden, the worship master at that time was Pastor Master Darrell Hamberry. And I said to him, as Mark said earlier, we turned the cruise ship real slowly, right? So I introduced some things to him. Say, hey, what about this? Have we thought about that? Can we try this? And of course, he said, you want to try it? That's your project. And it became my project. And so by the time I became the senior warden, the ideas that I had when I was a junior warden, some of them was already implemented, right? So I didn't do nothing but just sit there and watch it grow. You know how you put a little grass seed down in the brown spot?
Yeah.
Just keep watering. I just sit there and watch it grow. Then when I became a senior warden, the worship master was a brother named Nathaniel Satterfield, who since passed away. Again, I introduced some ideas to his consciousness, right? Unbeknownst to him, he's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. You want that? You run with that. So inch by inch, I started implementing these little bitty pearls, right? Just putting the little pearls in. And then by the time I came to worship master, they went on autopilot, right? So I already had the new communication lined up, right? I told the secretary, I said, you and I are gonna work close together. He said, why? I said, because I did you something real new, but it's slick. I said, watch this. It's not hard at all. You're gonna love this. And he loved it, right? He said, wow, this is great. And so I took it, like I'm in IT. So I took it as a project, right? I said, I got 4 years to get there. And when I get there in 4 years, this is where I would like to see us. I didn't say me, us, Tappan Zee Lodge. This is what I hope for the future. This is what I hope us to be able to do and staple and done, blah, blah. And so I planted little pearls, right? And as I planted them, I watched them grow. And it didn't take much, right? It was little bitty things, but little bitty things end up to be big things. And like Mark said earlier, before they know it, the ship's going back home. You went down to the Bahamas, made a U-turn, now you come back. And that's how you do it. And I applied that, and I get excited about masonry. If anybody talk, they said that dude can talk your head off, man. He blah, blah, blah. But I get excited because I love this thing. No, you don't understand, bro. This to me is fun. I got a stressful job, right? Life is hard, right? Why want to come here and it be hard? No.
Right.
That part for sure.
Exactly. So, I'm not paying for stress.
No,
no way, shape, or form.
Right. So how do you get there? You talk, right? There ain't no big eyes, no little U's. You just talk, right? And the most important thing is it's got to be mutual respect across the board, right? So although you may not like my idea, you don't have to just kill it. Listen to it for a few minutes, but it has to be mutual respect across the board. We come with a lot of baggage. Us that look like this, right? And so we got to understand that. We got to be able to be empathy and compassionate to who we're talking to. So you take all these things, like I said earlier, you take all these things, you mix them up, and you find what works best for your brothers. You know them. You know them. You know what worked best for Eureka 36. Mark know what worked best for Sons of King 123. You mix that up and you make your own little potion, and then that's how you sprinkle it out there. It's not
appreciate
easy.
that.
It's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it is easy, because it's not. But when you are passionate about something and you really love something and believe in it, that makes it all the more. When you see it come to fruition, you be like, yeah, I didn't think we could pull it off, but we did.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it's worth it for sure.
Yeah.
So what I think I heard you say is junior deacons who are planning to go to the East, you need to start sprinkling some stuff in right now, so that by the time you get to the East, it don't have to be grandiose. So junior deacon, move to senior deacon, have a vision. And I heard that loud and clear as well, Pastor Mr. Wheeler, in terms of having that vision where you want to be in 4 years, 5 years. You may not get there in 4 years of fire, but at least you have an idea of what you want to do, and then you can start inserting some ideas and start planting some seeds early that need some time to germinate and help that big ship start moving. I do want to shift us a little bit to now that you are out of the East, Pastor Master Wheeler. for some time now. I'm curious about how your leadership has changed since you were in the East, now that you are a past master supporting your lodge, and sort of how the relationship dynamics work today, or have worked since you've been out of the East with the masters that have come after you.
They love
Especially
me.
since with this one, especially since you instituted a lot of these programs, or they were your ideas,
Mm.
you know.
They love me.
Done.
No,
All right,
I
next
think
question, Mark.
that
Next question.
I tell you this. So when I came out, I went right back in as a treasurer because I saw the health of our treasurer failing, and he was having a hard time keeping up with things. So I went back in as a treasurer. I every worship master that has come after me, and so when I was worship master, when you give your stewardship report, you talk about the things that you've accomplished, during the year. So when I got to the end, I turned to the senior warden who was destined to become the worship master. His name was Willie Bryant. And I said to him, I said, Dr. Bryant, he was the doctor. I said, Dr. Bryant, I said, I'm the room was full. I said, I pledge to you tonight, you have my undying support. Take what you want from what I've done these last 4 years. Take what you want from what I've done these last 4 years. What you don't want, it's fine. You're the worship master now. But what you want to keep, I'm here for you to help you succeed. And we continue this journey on. And that's all I could do because I'm no longer the worship master. His vision might not be my vision. And I had to understand that, right? Because he was an older gentleman. So technology, a lot of things, he may not have been his vision, but he had a vision. So I had to stand with him and help him see his vision to fruition, right? But every worship master after that, I've offered my skills, my willingness, my confidence, my camaraderie to help them succeed. My worship master and I right now, we have a weekly call. No matter where I'm at, send them an email. Worship master, you want to call me for 20 minutes, 30 minutes? We just chop it up. What you think about this? First thing I say, right now, is Tommy and Jason on the phone. What's going on? Tell me. And some conversations are not about the lodge. They're about him, his personal life, what he's going through, right? Because guess what? That's what we do for one another.
Brothers, yeah, we're brothers.
And so,
That's what it's supposed to be.
so then we talk about his program. Hey, worship master, have you thought about this? Yeah, I was thinking about that. Okay, how we do that? Just try this. And so I offer my help to fit in whatever they need me to help them with. All right. And I take that and I apply that principle everywhere. So not just in the Blue House, I apply it in the temple, and I take it everywhere because that to me is important. Because you know what? Here's the thing about it. Somebody did that for me. Right? So I'm just paying it forward. Right. I'm just paying it forward. Somebody did that for me. I had a cohort. I told you what happened to me when I went to the guys and told them I couldn't do it. Hey, what'd they do? Put their arms around me. He said, we got you. You know how that made, when I left that meeting that night, it was like someone took a weight off my shoulders. Right? And so I have to. I'm obligated to help them. It's the only way I can do it. Right?
Well, that's a blessing that you have that, because a lot of guys, they'll leave. Well, that's not a lot of guys, a lot of brothers who serve as master leave there disenfranchised and frustrated and burnt out. But it sounds like you were blessed to have men that were willing to be there for you, support you from the jump, like right from the beginning, which is fantastic. So having that support. So past masters listening right now, it seems to be a recipe for success. Wrap your arms around the incoming worshipful master, and then making sure you guide them through it, because you need the past masters to stick around. You do not want your lodge full of of no past masters. You want to have your past masters around as long as they are alive and well. You want them around because they bring a lot to the table in terms of helping the lodge stay viable and active and robust. So it's great that you had that, past Master Wheeler.
It's lonely. It's lonely sitting in the East, right? It's lonely. You're up there by yourself trying to run a meeting. And what I would do is whenever the meeting would start, I invite a past master to come sit with me in the East, right?
Mhm.
And while somebody was reading a report or doing something like that, I lean over and we just chit chat. So what should I do now? What you think about that report, right? And we up there, and it made him feel good, and it made me feel good, right? So we comforted each other, right? Why? Because he had the wisdom of being a past master, right?
Mhm.
And then the fact that the worship master is acknowledging him, right, made him feel important that night, right? And
Mhm.
so that again, that's that, we respect it. It's reciprocal, right? So then he felt they felt they could talk to me about anything. It's reciprocal, so we understood each other. But it is very important. It is, and I was at a breakfast on Sunday, and my worship master was sitting at another table with senior warden, another past master, their wives, right? So when they were going up to get their food, he comes over, he grabs my hand, and he said, "No, don't get up, don't get up, don't get." But it's just that it's just that feeling that you get when you see your worship master. You want him to shine. You proud that he's your worship, and he's proud to call me his past master. So that's what I want. I want them to be proud to see me, just I'm proud to see them.
Yeah, definitely. Your current worship master and your junior past master was actually stopped through our last large meeting for a while. It was good talking with them, and I also seen your worship master at the Albany trip, so that was good chopping it up with them and getting to know them a touch bit better as we continue to grow in this thing we call the craft. Let me ask you, what is some of the proudest moments you had when you was in the East?
Uh, um, the night that I got installed, because my father was a Mason, and he passed away before he got to become worship master.
Mhm.
Um, and my mom knew that, she knew that, so she shared a couple of stories with me about his Masonic career. Um, um, the night that we did the re-obligation, um, we did all three parts of the re-obligation. Um, the night that we had our annual dance, and I turned around and my brother and sister, because there's just three of us now, came into the room, and just that, and then seeing the faces of the people, like the widows when we had our widows breakfast, the children when we read at the school, the seniors when we did the feeding program, how thankful they were, how and happy they were to see us, that somebody took time out to help them. When we did the program with the young men about keeping it real, when we saw how the light bulbs go off in the little men's in their heads, like, okay, so the police aren't really bad, all cops aren't bad, and these police, when they look like me, they don't want me to get in trouble. And so when you see the light bulb goes off in the head, it does something to your spirit. When you see a brother stand west of the altar and he's getting a report, and the program was a success, it does something to your spirit to see that person just so happy and elated, right? We do things out of custom. Oh, I move that we give so and so, we accept the report, deposit in the ICRAs, and give them everybody don't deserve a rousing vote of thanks.
True.
Okay? But when but
That's
when
true.
but when the brother truly deserves it and they work their tail off, come on. That's
I love
what
it.
I enjoy.
I love it.
It's not about me, right? So what you gotta
Tommy,
understand.
real quick. I was mad with my brothers. When I did my stewardship report, why they was clapping for like 10 minutes. I'm like, if y'all don't cut this out, what are y'all doing?
See?
No, you're just showing off now.
No, I'm just
10 minutes.
See?
10 minutes.
like, if
Come
y'all
on.
gonna
That's a lot.
stop.
You know how long 10 minutes is?
I said like.
I believe it, because you're standing there, and that night you're so full of emotions because you're reading back what you deposited in your lodge for that year. I had
Yeah.
so much fun. I wanted to go back and do 2 years.
So with that question, that was a perfect transition to my last question, to our last question for the night. We know, Tommy, that you have sites in masonry and you're doing your thing in masonry, and in life and in the craft. But if you were to go back into the East in 2025, again, this is hypothetical. If you were to go back into the East and Tappan Zee Lodge number 79, what would be the one thing that you would focus on that you either do differently or that you would do again if you were to go back into the East?
I would
With this time, at this day and age, at 2025, at this day and age.
I would give my senior warden more responsibility.
All right.
Because the senior warden is he got my 6, right? So I would give him more responsibility, right? But then I gotta also know his continents. I gotta know what he's capable of. I gotta know what his limitations are. I gotta understand what his real resource. I gotta have a real talk with him. I gotta understand, hey, brother senior warden, I need you to do some things. Are you able to do these things? And I gotta give him a list of things to do, right? I'm setting the expectation for him to succeed, right? Not as the worshipful master in the but as a senior warden, because then when he becomes a worshipful master, he'll know already. He'll have a different set of skills. I want him to hone his skills to become the worship master. The only way to do that is to give him more responsibility. And see, right. I did want to go back, but tradition. We talk about tradition, and this is what I got from my fellow past masters. Right? They tighten their jacket up like this. Well, we don't do that here. We don't do that here. We don't do that here. I said, but I want to go back. They
Was
said,
it one and done? That's a tradition. One and done.
One and done. We don't do that here. We don't do that here. And Mark's laughing, right? And they looked at me like this: is he crazy or what? You want to go back? I wanted, I had so much fun. I had so many more ideas because once you drive in the car, I love motorcycles. Once I used to ride a Hayabusa, a sport bike, right? God told me, he said, man, when you get on a cruiser, you're going to leave that Hayabusa high and dry. He ain't never lied. I bought a Boulevard M109. You would have thought I died and went to heaven because it was the experience that I had never experienced the ride was different. I'm sitting up. I can see the trees. I can see the birds. I can see everything, right? And the first year you're the worship master in my lodge, right? You're doing a lot of cleanup, a lot of, getting yourself together work, right? But then once you get that out of under your belt, you say, you know what? I still got some more little pearls I want to drop. So what you do, you tell the next worship master or the next warden, hey, brother junior warden, come over here, let me talk to you for a minute. Let me chat. You ever thought about this? Because you got to spread what you know with everybody. All right. The mark of a true leader, he's not afraid to share what he knows. He's not afraid. He's not afraid to see somebody else. He's not afraid to see somebody else be a better worship master than he was. Because times change, right? So right now, times have changed so much in my lodge. We all electronic now. So I'm the treasurer. Secretary sitting over there. I'm sitting over there with my Chromebook. I got the bank account over here. He writing checks. We see it in real time how much money. So when the worship master asks for a financial report, we down to the penny. So times have changed, right? When I was worship master, they had a calculator with the ribbon, the paper, the paper come out. The paper all, right? He stapled it in the book, right?
It was in 1982. It was 2012. It wasn't that long ago, Tommy. Come on now. Come on now.
But this is the way
his laws went through Y2K and they never caught up.
Right. This is the way they did things. And so, you have to be able to express what you want to see other people succeed at without fear of being, feeling like you didn't do a good job. Right. That's the biggest thing about leaders. And we all know some leaders who do not want the people behind them to be more successful than they were. And that's the sad part. That is truly stifling. But for the most part, if I went back in, I would give my senior warden more responsibility.
Thank you.
Outstanding. That's definitely a good answer. Past Master Wheeler, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on this podcast today. And this is the first time that I think in Master, I've got a chance to talk to you a little bit more, and I look forward to building with you in the future. You have gave us so many different pearls of wisdom this afternoon, starting with one that made this podcast particularly pleasurable, was about laughter and joyful, bringing that to your lodge, and make sure you have that to re-energize the base, the people that's already there, make sure they receive re-energized. Your 4 points in which you honed on as worship master: having vision, the delegate, the mentorship, and collaborate with people, are definitely some points that other worship masters, I hope, can take and lean into. To watch the brother before you and what he's doing, so you could learn from what do and not to do. Open communication, recognizing the challenges. It's so many things you have on that last part, in which I'm gonna put back, as far as a true leader isn't afraid to share, and he also wants the people behind him to be better, because that will make the whole organization better. So again, thank you for these points, and they will definitely I'll remember them, and I hope I know other brothers will as well.
No problem. Thank you very much for
Absolutely.
having me.
Definitely. Definitely a pleasure, Past Master Wheeler, for meeting you. This is our first time having an interaction together. Again, as Mark stated, I look forward to building with you. Hopefully we can connect with each other at Grand Session in a couple of weeks. So that'd be nice. And if not there, hopefully at another occasion. But it was definitely a pleasure having you here. Thank you for all that you do behind the scenes for Grand Lodge in terms of the technical support, and anything and all the things that you do for the craft. So thank you very much, and safe travels back home. We know that you are overseas, and so we appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight.
Thank you.
So with that, any last words before we wrap it up officially?
I would just say this to any brother that aspires to become worship master, whether you're a brother, a deacon, a steward, or warden, or if you're a past master and you're going to go back in as worship master, do not be afraid to try new things. But when you try new things, make sure you have a purpose for trying a new thing. Don't just throw something out on a wall to see if it's going to stick. Make sure that what it is that you're proposing is visionary. Make sure that it's going to not upset the apple cart, but it might be a little rocky, but make sure that it's something that is going to benefit your lodge. Because anything else, it will tear the lodge up, right? It will divide the lodge, right? So make sure that your vision is something that is going to propel your lodge, push it up. Like Mark said, just turn it a little bit, slowly, until you see the new horizon. And once you see the new horizon, you're good. You're good. That's all I would say to anybody, that's all. And like you said earlier, learn a little patience, because everybody that comes to the table don't eat the same way. Some people eat a little slower than other people. And for those you guys, you got to spoon feed them. Give them a little bit of honey. Let make medicine go down a little. But just be consistent. Consistency.
Yes.
All right.
And you have brothers like me that's going
Cookie Monster.
Cookie Monster, exactly.
I would say consistency. If I said anything else, that is what I would say to
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's a great word, consistency. I live by that all day long. So there you have it. Another episode of the Masterful Conversations podcast, where we talk about leadership. Thank you again, Past Master Wheeler, for your time and your energy. For those listening, we appreciate you taking your time to listen to what we've shared today. We hope and pray that what you hear today will add value to your life, whether you're in the craft or not in the craft. And remember that this world needs leaders, and it starts with us, and it starts with you leading yourself. So it's hard for you to lead other people if you can't lead yourself. And so until that time, we meet again. Safe and God bless. Take care.
Good night, gentlemen.